Imagine being a wrestling fan in Britain in the year 2000. You switch on Channel 4 on a Sunday afternoon, and there it is, WWF. For free. No Sky subscription, no scrambling to find a mate with satellite television, just a Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and the hottest wrestling company in the world on one of Britain's biggest TV channels. It should have been a match made in heaven. Instead, it lasted less than 2 years. Hello everyone, I'm Josh Faulkner, the wrestling comedian. Make sure you like the video and drop me a follow. This is the story of WWF on Channel 4. To understand why this was such a big deal, you have to remember what British television looked like at the time. In 2000, the WWF was at the absolute peak of the Attitude Era. Stone Cold was one of the biggest stars in entertainment. The Rock was becoming a crossover celebrity. Triple H, The Undertaker, Kane, and Mick Foley were household names amongst wrestling fans. Meanwhile, wrestling itself was booming. The problem was that most WWF programming in Britain lived behind a paywall on Sky. Then Channel 4 came along. In January 2000, they signed a deal to broadcast Sunday Night Heat and 4 WWF pay-per-views a year. For wrestling fans, this felt enormous. Finally, WWF had returned to free-to-air British television. At first, it looked like a brilliant move. Sunday Night Heat aired as part of the T4 schedule on Sunday afternoons. The ratings were respectable, the pay-per-views attracted attention, and for many younger fans, this was their first regular exposure to WWF programming. But there was one major problem. Channel 4 had bought WWF at exactly the wrong time. Not because wrestling wasn't popular, because it was. The problem was that the Attitude Era was designed to be controversial. This wasn't Big Daddy against Giant Haystacks. This wasn't even World of Sport. This was chair shots, blood, sexual storylines, bra and panties matches, and enough controversy to fill a tabloid newspaper every week. Channel 4 seemed to want the popularity of WWF without fully understanding what WWF actually was. The perfect example came at the Royal Rumble 2000. The event featured the legendary street fight between Triple H and Cactus Jack, one of the greatest matches of the Attitude Era. But it also featured Mae Young flashing the audience during the Miss Royal Rumble contest. Suddenly, Channel 4 found itself explaining to viewers and newspapers why wrestling was appearing on a mainstream channel. And from that point onwards, the relationship always felt slightly uncomfortable. The programs were edited, content was censored, and over time, Sunday Night Heat started getting pushed around the schedule. What began as a respectable Sunday afternoon slot slowly drifted later and later, and eventually ending up in the early hours of Monday morning. That's usually television's way of saying, we've lost interest. At the same time, the wrestling boom itself was beginning to cool. WCW had collapsed, the Monday Night War was over. The WWF was still successful, but the cultural frenzy of the late 1990s wasn't quite as intense. Then, in 2001, Channel 4 decided not to renew the deal. The official concerns centered around the increasingly extreme nature of the content and the portrayal of women. And just like that, WWF disappeared from Channel 4. Looking back, I don't think the deal failed because wrestling wasn't popular. I think it failed because WWF and Channel 4 were trying to achieve different things. WWF wanted to be edgy. Channel 4 wanted something it could comfortably place in a mainstream schedule. Eventually, those two visions collided. But despite its short lifespan, WWF on Channel 4 remains a huge part of British wrestling history. For many fans, it was their first taste of the Attitude Era, their first pay-per-view, their first glimpse of The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin. And for a brief period, some of the biggest stars in wrestling appeared every week on free British television. If you remember watching WWF on Channel 4, let me know your memories in the comments. And if you want more wrestling stories, opinions, and laughs, you know what to do. And remember, I'll see you on the next one.